So this was my very first Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I was a human rogue assassin and had just gotten my vengeance on the man that killed my character's fathers. The Knight of the Kingdom, turning out to be the NPC my character helped in the past, offering to help us leave the kingdom so we don't get caught by the authorities, since the man my character killed was a king of a small kingdom, but his daughter was still alive. I had no reason to kill her off, so I leave her be. Up! Guys, come on! Blue Eye Samurai rules. Say it with me. Kids die first. Between this and the Brontosaurus bit, which one's lasting longer? Place your bets. Anyway, we agreed with this knight to leave the kingdom, but as we were ready to leave, another player, Fire Genasi Fighter, was still very peeved about a rich merchant calling him peasant when he wasn't able to afford anything in the store. So we had the brilliant plan to try and set the merchant store on fire from outside the city, which was surrounded by a giant wall. He expectedly failed the strength check to throw the Molotov cocktail over the wall, and the Molotov cocktail swerved in the air and hit the princess, and one of our party members, a human warlock, who went unconscious on impact. Hey, you set out to settle a grudge, and you took out what might have been a future threat. Total win in my book. Well, here goes nothing.
Meanwhile,
My father was just holding me back. Now as queen, my power will extend beyond the realm. There will be no stopping my inevitable... What is that? How could this be? Huh. Nice. We were all dying with laughter at the whole absurdity of the situation as the Fire Genasi became our spontaneous player. He definitely keeps any and all DMs on their shoes. There are types of disruption that are much more problematic for the game. This isn't one of them. This is a lot more fun and exactly what I want out of a quote-unquote horror story. I mean, yeah, maybe it's not ideal, but hey, we're having a lot of fun. Also, Genasi's following Blue Eye Samurai rules. I respect that. A couple months back, after DMing for 2 years, me and 3 friends were looking for a dungeon master to host a game for us on Roll20. We were okay with just about any setting, module, homebrew, whatever. I personally wanted to play a new class I've been working on for a couple of months, a Death Knight. My friend in Acaris, a fellow person creature. Yeah, I played a Death Knight in World of Warcraft, okay? What can I say? I'm an edgy girly, alright? Anyway, yeah, I wanted to play test my Death Knight, but I was fine with sticking with official materials. We find someone with an interesting premise who was even down to let me play test the Death Knight even after they had read it. We were told that we lived in a futuristic world with technology that lets you travel to a new world through an avatar. We were told we needed to write character backstories for our real characters, but build level 1 characters as our avatars. However, our avatars would have no knowledge of their real selves and would have led their lives, but we were assured that they would not need a backstory, and our avatars would be considered heroes of the world they lived in. Okay, we're confused. Yeah, like, you're playing as players who are themselves playing as characters who themselves don't know that they are characters in a game. This is such a pointlessly complicated premise. Just skip the middleman, dude. It's not that mind-blowing. Okay, we're confused, but do as we're told, and I'll write elaborate backstories for the real-life people. During character creation, we were told that if we took a really low stat, we would get an extra feat. That's how we ended up with a dexterity fighter with a 3 in intelligence, an artificer and warlock with 5 in strength, and a strength death knight with 4 in charisma. Playing an undead with such low charisma, I wanted to make my avatar a bit like a mute Frankenstein's monster, but with a heart of gold. All he could do was make gurgling sounds, so I just called him Gurgle, and the DM loved the idea. The DM starts our first session with, "You all awaken in a forest. What do you do?" Needless to say, we're pretty confused, only having received information on a world our characters had no memory of. We ask for more info on our avatars, but the DM says it's not important. We decide to just roll with it and find a town. We encounter some kids who are terrified of Gurgle. They get their parents who want to kill Gurgle while the rest of the party vouches for him. Gurgle tries to motion and Gurgle that he's friendly, but they interpret it as him being evil and threatening. We spend 30 minutes calming these freaking people down. This creature, this strange, ugly, hideous creature that most importantly looks nothing like me, wishes to give me a flower. Fascinating. It must be a sign of total evil! Do you want to kill it, boys? Yep. Yeah. but the next NPC we encounter react exactly the same. We spent the entire session trying to pacify the village, as every little thing Gurgle did was perceived with hostile intent. No rolls, just instant failure. It was kind of funny the first time, but not so much the 6 times after. After that session, I asked if I could stop being mute, as I was basically unable to communicate non-verbally without triggering combat. The Dungeon Master was not pleased, but reluctantly agreed. Over the next couple of sessions, a weird dynamic grew where my character kept getting nerfed, despite performing poorly, and the fighter kept getting buffs and magic items. My chainmail got damaged willy-nilly, resulting in AC reduction, while the fighter got +2 rapier that could be ignited for a minute as a bonus action to deal an extra 2d8 fire damage each hit. What is this AI-generated game balance? Oh my god! He got that level 2, by the way. At level 4, he learned to rage using his dexterity after fighting a barbarian NPC, just as a little bonus. Fire just got to ask, can I have this? And then he would get it. When Gurgle gets banished at level 5 with the deck of many things, I decide to go for official material, thinking our DM just did not like my homebrew. I chose a Shepherd Warforged Druid who had low strength. I gave him only one arm to do this low strength thing, leaving the other one just for spellcasting. However, the Dungeon Master decided that my subclass features of communicating with animals was too strong and immediately banned the thing. My friend grew quiet, as they knew I was on the verge of quitting. Having checked out mostly, I just tag along as we get railroaded into a cave with a collapsed entrance, with only a small hole near the top. Thinking finally I can do something, I say, okay, so I want to wild shape into a cat and scout on the other side.
You can't.
Why not? Cats are great at climbing.
Yeah, well, cats can't climb with only 3 legs.
Are you kidding me?
Hey, you wanted to play a character with only 1 arm.
That's not how wild shape works.
Yeah, well...
Well, yes it is. Screw this, I quit. At this point, the others are chiming in to support me, and the Dungeon Master caves, but at that point, the camel's cat's back has already been broken. I quit the game and leave the Discord server, reassuring my friends that they can keep on playing. But a week later, the Dungeon Master vanishes without a trace. Ever since we stuck to the 4 of us, taking turns DMing, we have never looked back. Oh, and in none of the 12 sessions we did we get any reference to our actual futuristic characters. Freaking amazing. God, this screams of a DM who has a lot of ideas, but doesn't know how to execute a single friggin' one of them. I know every Dungeon Master is an amateur writer, but some are definitely more amateur than the other amateurs. The whole plot line of, oh, you need to create a futuristic character that plays an avatar in this game, that's just overly convoluted. There's too much going on there, and the Dungeon Master doesn't do anything with that concept. That's what makes amateur look amateur. When you have all these ideas, they're not even that great in the first place, but on top of that, you don't do anything with them. Couple that with the random inclusion of the deck of many things, the railroading that's also kind of randomly tossed in there too. It just, yeah, inexperience to the T. I wonder how much was communicated in the DM's initial concept, because the players said that they were interested, but they seem really displeased with the whole avatar thing. So I wonder if the DM lied, which, yeah. Also, don't do that on your Roll20 post. It's bad form, guys. I'm a bit tired of DMing at higher levels. There's barely any content that's viable at this point in the game, and I feel like I'm not giving my PCs anything cool or challenging. It sucks. Thankfully, I found Elderbrain and Torrents of the Spell Hoarder. This video is sponsored by Elderbrain and their new book, Torrents of the Spell Hoarder, a massive 500-page, high-level seafaring adventure in a unique subtropical sandbox setting, taking your characters from level 16 to level 20. We have been starved for so long for high-level adventures, and Elderbrain decided to sate our appetites quite richly. They have naval combat rules, 25 dungeon and ship maps, 55 new monsters, 24 subclasses, 20 magic items, and 22 spells and feats. This is a massive volume, and you guys know how stingy I am with what third-party stuff I like. And this, dude, I like it. But hey, you don't need to take my word for it. They have a 120-page free module that you guys can check out right now to get a feel for their book. And on top of that, if you don't want to read, you can also check out their actual play on their YouTube channel, playing through said free module as a perfect example on what they can do with this book. That YouTube channel has tons of online goodies. And speaking of online goodies, if you're a Roll20 person, well, guess what? Torrents of the Spell Hoarder is also available as a Roll20 VTT module. If you guys are interested, you can head down into the description or the pinned comment where you can grab Elderbrain's latest release and use the code 10OFF, spelled out, it's on screen, to get 10% off your purchase. Oh, and don't forget about the free PDF, 120 pages, completely free, you cannot lose. Thank you so much to Elderbrain for sponsoring today's video. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, I'm going to turn back into an animated rat so that we can get back to the video. Some info on the Dungeon Master. He is a very Christian boy who, as my roommate slash friend described him, wasn't the kind of pastor who would keep quiet about a friend of his who was bro, that's like the lowest bar. There is nothing lower than that bar. He also had a weird thing around the LGBTQ plus community. Like, he would straight up say that Phoenix Wright and Miles Edgeworth are just friends. Miles should end up with Francisca, his adoptive sister, who he's known since they were kids. Okay, beyond the fact that Sam Riegel is in it, I know nothing about Phoenix Wright, so just keep that in mind. But, I swear, this better be legit homophobia and not some shipping war crap, okay? My friend regaled me with tales from the Voltron fandom.
I've become a changed man.
I got introduced to this group by my roommate after moving to college, which is how I first got into Dungeons & Dragons and met this DM, who I'll call Paladin since he was a paladin in another campaign. This friend group eventually broke up due to most of them graduating and some living states away. But before this group broke up, Paladin said he was looking for players in another group of his, run in Discord, for a campaign he was setting up. I agreed to join because at this point the other ones this group had started were dwindling as Paladin insisted on us watching another show instead. I won't say, but it was basically just a knockoff of Power Rangers. Wait, you were watching the show instead of playing the game? At least when I cancel D&D games, my friends and I play Minecraft instead, nice and relaxing. Blow yourself, you fuck! So he invited me to this Discord server and I get the premise of the game. It's a harem anime. Literally, we were all supposed to create characters that would be in a school, and our goal was to woo the male protagonist. By the end of this year, whoever had the most points would be the winner. I was weirded out by this, to say the least, because I was still pretty new to Dungeons & Dragons, while my bard from another campaign had flirted with 3 brothers at once. First time being a bard. I think it was meant for a joke, but just did not come out right. It felt weird. I still decided to go through with it because there was an idea I had for a character I wanted to test out. Her name was Sydney, and unlike most of the others at the school, she was supposed to just show up randomly one day. This was because, as part of her backstory, she was running from a cult that she had been born into, and thought that something in the school might help her. Part of the story I told the Dungeon Master about was that the protag was supposed to help her uncover more about her past, and why this cult desperately wanted her back to the point that they were willing to kill kids to get to her. So, to protect other people, she kept them at arm's length, while trying to learn how to be human. Her cult revered her as a god, so she didn't get much education on how to interact with others normally. All that never happened, though. Awesome.
Wow, what a lovely story that this player has given to me to use in my campaign. It would fit in perfectly and... Yep, don't need that. Hey guys, why did we leave the book on booby physics?
In the first session, we were all introduced, and Sydney just starts walking in the library. Hell yeah, that's the perfect place to start this cult story. Unfortunately, not only do I get constantly talked over by everyone else, but Sydney isn't even given the chance to interact with the male protagonist. He doesn't go any places that I think Sydney would end up naturally, and I think, okay, that's the first session, maybe the next one would be better. And no, it isn't. The next couple of sessions are the same. I'm constantly talked over with Paladin trying to get me to speak louder, but even still, I still get talked over. There was one time Sydney got the chance to interact with male protagonist, and if I remember correctly, it was because we, male protagonist, me and another player, were attacked by some of my old cult. I was kind of upset because I didn't want to reveal the cult so soon. I wanted to build up to it, but I didn't get the chance for that. Even with all this, I just still stayed quiet. I know there was a beach episode, but that isn't something Sydney would want to do because it would put her out in the open with no protection and with dozens of innocent people around.
Hey, the beach episode's starting soon. You gonna join us or you're just gonna sit here and brood all day. I'm not brooding. Like I told you, I'm hiding. I'm trying to avoid a horrific cult that has consumed and ruined my entire life. And if I go out into the open, I put myself in danger and also everyone else around me. It would be just better for me to stay here, investigate the cult maybe, and make sure they don't hurt anyone else. I just don't think a beach episode's a good idea. Okay, yes, but counter argument, we could get bikini shots of you. I thought that would be the winning rebuttal.
The reason I fell out of this campaign was because they started changing what time and day the sessions were, but never told me. I would show up to when a session was supposed to be, only for no one to be there. When I asked the others about it, they said that it would be canceled a while ago over call. I didn't get on calls that much because of my own school and work schedule. I was still going to college at the time, so the fact I would continuously ask to be told when these scheduling changes happen and not be getting any heads up pissed me off to no end. I just stopped showing up myself. I stopped caring if when I got there was no one there, and DM never once reached out to ask about what happened to me. He didn't even seem to notice. I know there was a second season to this campaign, but that's about it. I'd wisened up by then and refused to join that one. As for Sydney, I'm proud to say that while she may not get her spotlight as a Dungeons & Dragons character, she does get the spotlight as a main character in one of my own stories, with a much more fleshed out backstory going at a pace I want that I'm happy with, and a partner who does not have any other potential partners. Thanks for reading this, and I hope you have a good day. P.S. I do have another story from another campaign if you're interested, and if you're interested in reading my dark story, like it gets really dark, feel free to hit me up. I mean, if it's too dark, I might not read it, but you know what? If it's like an appropriate level of dark, why not? Send it over. Anyway, it's kind of interesting to see how someone actually took the just write a book advice and actually did it. Because, legitimately, writing some fan fiction or just your own little narrative for your own sake, dude, it's fun, and it's also healthy to practice your writing. Aside from that, if you want to run a generic harem campaign, whatever, you just need to find players who actually want to do it. I personally think it's weird for a DM to run a campaign where the whole point is flirting with the DM through an NPC, but look, again, if you find players who want to do that, great. But clearly, this person did not want to do that. It seems that they realized that quickly, though. I mean, after 2 sessions, it's pretty clear this wasn't the campaign for them. But the real crime is the scheduling thing. Scheduling is already enough of a pain in the butt, not including someone in that discussion explicitly, and then just leaving them out to dry, insanely disrespectful. I have a feeling they were excluding this person because maybe they weren't interacting with the campaign the way the rest of the party and the DM wanted, but that's a discussion you need to have. You don't fix that problem by just, leaving them out to rot. That does not help anyone at all. A few years ago, I was DMing Storm King's Thunder with some of my friends. The relevant one to this particular group we're going to call Bard. And he fits all the expectations of a Bard, in-game and out-game. Great guy, very charismatic and fun to be around, inflicted with every sexually transmitted... I'm kidding. That wasn't in the story. I was ad-libbing. Sorry. Anyway, this guy is he's a great guy. And fairly early in the campaign, the players meet a grizzled old dwarf who had retired from the military and had taken to raising griffins on a hill just outside a small port town. She was a bit of an exposition character, meant to impart some information to the party, and for a fee, allowed them to use her griffins for transportation. She considers the griffins her children, and is extremely wary of getting them into a position that would be dangerous to them. Now, before the party is going to depart for any other places, the town is attacked by a raiding party of frost giants. The intent was for the dwarf to allow the party to use her griffins to get down to the town to aid in the defense. Bard, being the charismatic bastard to begin with, rolls a nat 20 on persuasion to get the dwarf to let them use the griffins in the fight. I had not expected this to be mounted combat at all, so I had to, on the fly, make up checks and mechanics for them to make Attack on Titan-style swooping attacks on these giants, and to add a little bit to the casters just sniping away from the air. Coming up with those rules must have been fun.
With the giant taken down, that's where we're going to end today's session. So what'd you guys think? DM, that session was incredible. The aerial battle, that was amazing, dude. Like, how do you come up with all this? Seriously. Oh, it's not a big deal. No, but really, you just seem like you have everything put together, even when you come up with crazy stuff. Like, it's just so awesome, man. You just seem to have everything so organized. Yeah. Okay, so after the players bounce up, they need to make an animal handling check to make sure that the griffin doesn't buck them off. And that's balanced alongside an athletics check to make sure that they can hold on to the griffin while it's flying at that speed. The giant also has range attack, so I need to make sure that the giant's range attack... DM?
totally worth it. That was one of the most memorable combats that I've ever played, and it was tons of fun, even if it wasn't planned. Definitely one of the reasons that I had to go with Rule of Cool and let my players have as much freedom as possible in my games. Cut to 3 months later. We have gotten deep into the campaign. The Frost Giants have come back up. They have a MacGuffin in their fortress the party needs. The module has a very nice and large layout of this fortress. I used the framework of that dungeon, reworked some of the encounters to be a bit more fun, challenging for my players, laid out some fun loot, some story sprinkles here and there. I was all set for this to be a 2 to 3 session dungeon, with how much my friends like to goof around the table. But as the party was preparing for their assault on the island fortress, they were meant to be taking boats provided by an ally to sneak in, and this had been discussed with the NPCs. All of a sudden, Bard remembers this dwarf and her griffins that aren't too far away. So the party go back to her house, and another painfully high persuasion roll later, the party's intended to fly the griffins to the fortress. The leader of the Frost Giants, the intended big boss of this particular dungeon, had the MacGuffin in a room at the top of the highest point of the fortress, and was himself at a lower level of that tower, so that if the party had been coming up from the bottom as planned, they would have gone through him to get to the goal. But as they were flying instead of sailing, the logical first place to go is the highest point of the fortress. So they just did a tactical strike, went directly to the room with the thing, grabbed it, and flew away. Session over. We had a great laugh about it, and Bard loved telling the story of how he outsmarted me very thoroughly. I may have had to scramble to get the next session plan, which was a bit of a bummer since I thought I was 2-3 sessions ahead, but totally worth it for the fun we had and the jokes we still make about it. Even though I thoroughly do not understand why you needed to throw away the whole session, I do think it's cool that you and your friends got to have this moment. Sometimes those unfortunate moments, even if they don't have to happen, it's cool that they do happen. And the memories that you get from these kind of things are completely worth the little bit of pain you go through rerouting the session. Again, I don't think the whole dungeon needs to be thrown away, and I do think DMs should be encouraged to rework existing things. You shouldn't throw away an entire session because oftentimes it's not going to be fun for anyone involved. But these guys had fun, so I think it's all right. First of all, English isn't my first language, but I'll do my best here. And I really enjoy your content, love your insights and tips and stuff, so thanks for making the effort to read through all this horrific stuff for our entertainment. You're welcome, and thank you, by the way. Comparing to other stories on your channel, this isn't that much of a horror stop jinxing it! But made me realize something very important that might help some of your viewers too. So yeah, some of the basics you need to know. The cast: DM, monk, fighter, bard, druid, and myself. We switched between systems in the end. DM was running a tabletop role-playing game called Splintermond, which is a German system that would translate to Shattered Moon. Fun system, though a bit complicated at times. If there will be an English version of it, you should totally check it out because it breaks with a lot of the common TTRPG rules we know and not always love. Monk hosted a campaign of Dungeons & Dragons whenever our Splintermond DM needed a break, or we finished a big story arc, and vice versa. I started to run a campaign of D&D in late 2023 myself. Okay, so the relationships in the group. DM, Monk, and me were colleagues at the time and realized we were all into tabletop role-playing games, so we started forming a group. I brought Bard, DM brought Fighter and Monk, and they introduced us to Druid. With all that out of the way, here we go. The group formed in mid-2021, with all the pandemic stuff fizzling out. Session 0 rolled around, we learned about the system that at the time, only Fighter and DM were familiar with and created characters. All the guys I didn't know appeared to be cool, so everything started, and we had a blast. Sessions were fun, character dynamics rocked, and everyone in the story was cool too. Fighter loved to argue about stuff with Dungeon Master, but we worked our ways around. We had a smoke while the discussion was going on, and whatever. Sorry, I just love the image of a bunch of adults going out onto the porch to smoke solemnly, while two dudes argue about the wizard game behind them.
Fall damage does not work like our plan.
So I guess we didn't have much of an issue there, or maybe it was, but for me it was fine at least. It wasn't until late 2021 when problems started coming up. We committed to every other Sunday for our session starting at 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. Dang, 7-hour games! That's a dedication, I'm impressed. But our 2-week schedule started turning to every 3 weeks and then every 4 to 6 weeks, since it was Dungeon Master in nearly every occasion who canceled, and we were playing at his house for him to cancel, meaning we just couldn't play. I get it, we're all grown-ups with our own lives and stuff to do besides tabletop role-playing games. Furthermore, I was in several online campaigns at that time, so it didn't bother me that much. In early 2023, Monk started running a D&D campaign that was even more fun, since DM was a great role player and really had something to bring to the table as a player. Until then, I didn't even realize how much his canceling was affecting my mood. As you can imagine, we're on our way past the point where I had most of the other players really believing DM's excuses, even though Fighter always had his back in this because the two were best friends. Hey, look here.
Look, listen!
If you get that reference, you get a gold star. But seriously, listen to me, okay? Just because your dungeon master said that they canceled the session because they're fighting a world-ending black dragon doesn't mean your dungeon master's lying, okay, man? Come on. Have some faith. But since he wasn't the DM for D&D and we moved our sessions to Bard's house, I started pushing the idea of playing regardless, since his scheduling issues didn't affect us that much. After a long discussion on the topic, we agreed to do so. Don't get me wrong, everyone pulled out of a session every once in a while, but all other players combined hadn't canceled as much as the Dungeon Master alone at this point. So we get to August of 2023. DM once again pulled out of a session, and since we were near the ending of the first big story arc of the campaign, Fighter insisted to postpone the session, which led to a long discussion between him and myself, but again, we agreed to just run the session as planned. On Saturday, Fire texted us and told us he wouldn't be able to make it because of a family meeting on Sunday he forgot about. Sure thing. Anyhow, we postponed for 2 weeks, and here we are again, with Dungeon Master telling us he won't be able to make it. At this point, I was boiling with anger and insisted on playing anyway since it wasn't a problem until now, so we did. Story arc was finished. DM told us he was hyped about running Splintermond again, and all the big ideas he had in his mind, but telling us he needed more time to prep until freaking October. But hey, I DM quite a bit myself and know how much time this can take, so I rolled with it. Round about the same time, I started running a campaign of my own with Monk, Bard, and 2 new players who really want to try it, so here we go. Fast forward to January of 2024. The campaign I was running had 10 sessions behind us, and we were having a lot of fun. In the same amount of time, we played two sessions of Splintermond, with the third coming up that Sunday. I left a birthday party early on Saturday so I could get enough sleep to function in a 7-hour-long session. And then the straw that broke the camel's back rolled around. 18 minutes before the session started. The Dungeon Master canceled because of whatever reason it was. I couldn't care less and was just not having it. I pulled the other players together in Discord to tell them I was leaving the Splintermond sessions and showing up for the D&D arcs, and nobody tried to talk me out of it. If anything, they had my back telling me that they had the same point of view, yet wanted to stay in the group. Long story short, I texted the DM telling him what the problem was, which I already did beforehand in November 2023, and telling him that I was dropping out of his sessions. A big argument broke out, which resulted in him dropping his campaign and us as friends entirely. Dude, your game is more non-existent than Helldiver's weapon balance. Okay, be for real, please! What are you mad about? I really don't understand. Besides that, this is also the worst way to run a game in the first place. Who the hell has time for consistent 7-hour sessions anyway? Or the energy? God, it's just a bad idea. If you want to do this, run one-shots for God's sakes. We still play in Monk's D&D campaign, and my campaign is alive and well too, since I put up with DM's stuff for over 2 years. So, what is my big takeaway from this? Communication is key. I should have spoken out way earlier, but since I heard a lot of horror stories on this and other channels, scheduling didn't appear to be that much of a problem until it was. Your time is valuable too, and anyone not respecting that is a person you don't need in your life. At the end of your day, keep smiling, keep being yourself, and don't let anyone throw shade at you. Cheers. I firmly believe that Dungeon Masters should not take sole responsibility for scheduling, but that doesn't mean a Dungeon Master should not take any responsibility at all, or worse, be actively irresponsible, which this DM is. Look, I have canceled games very last minute just due to sheer exhaustion. It happens. But if you make it a habit, people aren't going to want to stick around. If you can't run full campaigns, that's okay. It's a dedication that you have to make, and not everyone can make it. There's no shame at all in running short campaigns or one-shots. Those are also perfectly valid ways to play TTRPGs. But don't con people into a long campaign if you can't make the time to actually run the thing. Anyway, I guess it's time to wrap up the... Hey, something's going on in that corner of the tavern.
But only we have the secret. Only we know the truth.
Your boss in here to, shake me down?
Yeah, we could be rough and tumble lads.
Sometimes we have to make sacrifices, right?
You're about to play a game that you can't escape. this Wednesday, The 10th Tomb featuring Zach Speaks Giant, Fall Cosplay, Crow's Perch, and Jesse from You Might Be a D&D. It's coming out, our latest D&D actual play. I hope you guys are excited for it, and if you are, you might enjoy our other D&D actual play, Shadow over Karakonos. You probably don't have time to binge it, but the first episode is linked in the cards nonetheless. And hey, before you go, please do leave a like on this video to let me know you enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to Crispy Tavern so you don't miss any of our new uploads right as they come out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment beach episode to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, and comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.
Damn it. Damn it.